Did you see a post from Moscow Times about the number of missing? Briefly, 41,666. Roughly, that's what we were thinking about. Dear friends, hi, nice to meet you on Feygin Live, Thursday, July 21st, 1 minute past 10. And we're starting the stream, day 148 with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to see you, Olexiy. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, singing an old comedy club where Zelensky was performing theme song. We have about 100,000 watching us live. As usual, those who joined, please help us to let them know. Please share links, subscribe, click that bell. And of course, subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the privateer station if you have not done that yet. Alright, let's start with a review. What happened during the last day, map, and microphone for Olexiy. Today is the day of airstrikes. Basically, on the whole line of the front, Russian aviation was hidden. Do you know what it means? It means that they cannot or finally understand that they failed to advance. They basically attracting the means affordable only to the higher command of the front. So it all means pretty significant issues for the Russian Federation. The fact that they usually are very careful about using Air Force. They're a bit afraid of having those being shot down. So the fact that they're using it today, it means that they're really in a difficult spot. So this is probably a history in the making. One day when they'll make a memorial to Shoigu as, so to say, Russian great military commander, in parentheses. One should put a phrase there saying, never ever give an order to attack and advance on all the fronts. So, up top, nothing is happening on Kharkov, not much. They cannot take anything, so... Same thing over in Siversk and Slavyansk. I want to say that airstrikes here basically mean that nothing else works. Same thing near Avdiivka. Same thing a bit south of Marinka, where we captured a couple of settlements. And they tried to bomb and shell us there, but didn't quite work. Also in Kherson, nobody is bombing anybody, ever since we shot down their Su-35 a couple days ago. Mostly it's us shelling them, and they tried to make a tactical move towards Blagodarovka and failed in doing so. We had several successful hits on the warehouses and on the forward operating bases, at least 3 really good hits. As always, we want to confirm location and damage. In retaliation, they're attacking Kharkov. They wounded and killed several civilians. One, I think, 6-year-old boy was murdered by their strikes. And there's that picture that flew around the world with his dad holding his hand, who was praying over his dead body for a long time. So that's usual Russian terrorism with artillery and missile means. For me, this use of Air Force means that they are stuck. They cannot advance. Olexiy, I think your sound was disappearing a bit. Some people were complaining. Okay, do you hear me now? Yes, I think we can hear you now. Sorry, I moved the wire. So yeah, I was saying that air strikes mean that artillery is not coping with the tasks at hand. And this is good news. But today's stream I want to dedicate to one great man. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Selivanov. We are showing his picture on the screen. As the person in the same rank, I need to mention and talk a little bit about his destiny. So he's a Ukrainian traitor who was serving during Yanukovych times in Ministry of Internal Affairs, was forming some pro-Russian groups towards Russian Spring and all that stuff influence. In 2014, he ran to Lugansk or Donetsk republics and served there. So he was appointed as a head of police of Zaporozhye region right now in this campaign. He was stolen by, I suspect, FSB, Russians, and he was put in some basement. 3 days later, we see a video where he's complaining that his stomach hurts and he needs to go to hospital, and everything would be all right, but Russian federal media turned in and protested the fact that he was stolen anywhere. They found his widow or wife or whatever, who said that no, he was not taken. And his friends, though, did post that the practice of basements and stealing people and using basements as prisons is one of the worst things. And one of the Russian bloggers was saying that Moscow was pushing for different bloggers to stop even peddling this subject, and that blogger who was writing saying, I did not. So he was helping with Russian resistance since 2014. He actually was participating in interrogation of Belarusian blogger Protasevich, so he probably was in LNR. In Kiev, he got his nose broken back in 2014, and he fled to those fake republics. He is actually one of the last remaining two persons known after that to have achieved certain positions in Russian army after the 2014 conflict. It's interesting that he did raise a few matters about big casualties, high casualties back in 2014, and he was reprimanded in 2015 by FSB and was ordered to shut down. It appears that he was one of the few rare idiots who actually believed in all that Russian springy stuff, and most of them were already shot. They're all gone. There are just two of them left now. This guy and Olexiy, another guy who's trying to serve in the Russian military, and he's participating in attack on Mariupol and the other cities. So wait, why was he captured? I suspect probably for something related to Zaporozhye nuclear station. But we don't have details. Mark, the main part is not why did they take him. The main part is that heroes of LNR and DNR, those idea Che Guevaras of pro-Russian republics, start to ask questions. What are we fighting for? What are we fighting for if the best of us are being captured and thrown in basements? This is not what we've been fighting for. And you can't even imagine, I'm just reading the Ukrainian forums in that regard on both sides. It's amazing. So, and people there upset with the whole situation are actually calling upon the top level of Russian prosecution. And for me, it's interesting that Russian unity started to break apart. I think they're breaking apart. For me, it's interesting. Olexiy, it's kind of like ore. They don't care. Your meat, your grinder, your ore. They use you and then they throw you aside. Well, yeah, I understand, Mark. But he's not the person. We don't care about him as a person. We'll catch him at some point and punish him, but what I care about is the reaction. Imagine that somebody from Moscow federal media is calling politologists and demanding that they shut down. And they're also calling field commanders and demanding that they shut down and stop posting stuff while they continue posting things. They start remembering the numbers of people dead from Lugansk and Donetsk republics that they've been thrown in front of Russian troops. So there is a mini revolution, mini revolt going on in their media, in their forums. And everybody understands, I think, when everything is good, everything works, people don't quarrel like that. So right now, this is a sign. This is a forebearer of the news to come. And we're not even attacking. Imagine when the front will start, the pendulum will start swinging in different direction. So that little Tinkerbell is the sign of future big issues. That's why I'm also expecting that when we will start taking cities back and territories back, there'll be more people captured from the Russian side, and there'll be a lot of inner fighting going on there, and they'll be throwing more people in their basements. And then somebody will probably not want to go willy-nilly with FSB and will take a gun and shoot them. Oh, frankly, I'd love them all to shoot each other. That would have been a real easy process for you. Mark, you're painting them as one group. Here, it's important to see the nuance. There are Kadyrov guys from Chechnya, there are federal guys, there's Donetsk and Lugansk fake republics. There are all different dynamics going on. All right, got it. 310,000 are watching us. 90,000. Click the like button. Thank you, friends. People are joining. Despite it being Thursday, they're still keeping attention on this stream. All right, let's also look at, right before we started, you reminded me that one of the media dedicated to Russia, there was some information about missing. It was a research published by Moscow Times. I actually wrote some articles for Moscow Times. I was the columnist there. So this one is dated back to June 6th. But right now it's got promoted only now. So one needs to mention that this is an English language edition. But they did state that the number of requests from relatives to Office of President of Russian Federation with requests to find missing soldiers was 41,666 requests. After that, we had 2 more months, probably the bloodiest and the most active, where they lost more people. Of course, we understand the destinies of some of them are defined, but additional 40,000 are the ones who are in the fields, additional to that. So you can only imagine the real size of losses for the Russian army. All right. So what's the current number that Ukraine military is estimating? We are saying 40,000, that's cadre Russians. Then perhaps 30,000 of fake republics, also slower than real. Then probably another 20,000 by private military companies, and altogether it gets to 60,000-70,000 of killed ones. So, and when they say that there are just 15,000, that's basically the 15,000 that they found, defined, and have confirmation that died. And we also have thousands of their bodies in our fields, in our forests, And we also have a lot of them in our morgues in the cities where we had those facilities to preserve some of the bodies. And yeah, it is important to track it because, that's evidence that there were that many. Understand, yes, and we try to as much as we can. Our morgues are pretty filled. So let's talk about Aspen. Those who watched Dumb and Dumber saw that the story of heroes is happening in Aspen. But that's not why I remembered that city, that place. It is because right now there's a security conference going on there, and the director of CIA makes a statement there that they do not have exact data about Putin's health. That's actually regarding our previous conversation about Putin's trip. He might even be rather healthy, but he continues that we do have business with unpredictable person, and there is a bunch of diagnoses that may be related to his behavior, not to physical condition, but to his psychological condition. What do you think if he could be a psychopath? And one of the insider published material referencing the research of American psychiatrist, not a psychoanalytic, but a real clinician psychiatrist, who points out that we do have a business with a paranoid psychopath. So you do like psychology. What's your thinking about that person and about his unpredictability and nuclear weapons related to that? Maybe he is physically all right, but psychologically he is really damaged. Mark, in psychiatry there is a way to test somebody remote by analyzing different functions, and Putin has a lot of these functions disturbed, including motion functions and other things. And there is also a different connection that health issues very often backfire in the mental capacities. But probably the main reason for his current condition is being for 22 years at the top of the country. It is stress, right? It is not just stress, it's also the feeling that when you kill so many people, you start being paranoid because you expect to be retaliated against. And that goes back and fires back against your own mental capacity because you are at least paranoid. The same thing happened to Stalin back in the day. On the other hand, Putin's psychopathy, I think, is very peculiar. It emanates partially in emotional muteness, subduing the emotional aspect of the events. So he can feel emotions from very basic stimulants like threat or satisfaction. And to a degree, this is a very good thing in terms of nuclear weapons because his emotional acuity being muted, his logical and thinking acuity is being pushed up in front. So Putin in his world is trying to lead the rational attempt. So I'm not quite afraid of capability of Putin's for Putin to use nuclear weapons because he is rather rational in this regard. He'll be trying to live and survive as long as he can. Even if everything falls apart, he will still be fighting to keep his power in the inner Moscow city. Well, with any attempt of use of nuclear weapons, he'll be losing both the arsenal and his life. So he'll be fighting to the last soldier, to the last Russian, to hold his own, to hold the country, and then to hold Moscow region, and then to hold the city and inner city. He's not like Hitler. He'll not suicide himself. He'll be running the show either empty or at least with his own self. So I'm not afraid in that aspect. But I totally agree that his inner circle is significantly deteriorating and distorting the picture of the world that he sees. And I suspect he's already in a condition when he's ready to be deceived, like leading those referendums and all that. What referendum can you talk about when your bridges in your backyard are already being destroyed? So very soon I think life will convince them that they need to review their plans in favor of the gesture of goodwill. All right, we talked about that. We'll dedicate more time to it later, since we talked about Aspen and Burns' statement, the head of CIA. All right, another statements coming about Friday, tomorrow, that in Istanbul, Turkey, there'll be signed a treaty about grain matters, and General Secretary of United Nations, Guterres, will likely be participating in signing that treaty. At least that's what Erdogan's media peddled today. So, main question here would be, what are the parameters for this treaty? That Moscow, that was trying to organize a ceasefire, especially in the south, or basically prevent Ukraine from deoccupying Kherson. What do you think? There'll be nothing. Is it official information? This is not an official information, but there'll be no peace treaty with them. And tell me then, what is the subject of the treaty? Frankly, I don't know exact details, but the logic is basic. We export grain, and Turks control that Russians do not intercept our ships, do not sink our ships. Something like that. I'm still learning more details, but I do not believe in ceasefire. Just, it doesn't exist. Not in this current situation. Because right now, and to announce that for Ukraine side would be not even shooting itself in the leg, it's shooting in your own head with a HIMARS. I know a bit people that I work with, and I cannot even imagine them announcing any peace, any ceasefire or peace truce. All right, Lukashenko announced that for safety of Belarus, it is enough that Russia has nukes. Is he playing back the statement about allowing to post Iskander-M on their territory and the violation of their constitution that had a non-nuclear proliferation status? I think they realized the noise that that situation caused, and he realized that it creates a very unfavorable situation for him, because breaking the treaty of nuclear non-proliferation during the biggest continental warfare since 1945, this is like a double shot with HIMARS in your own head. So even Lukashenko, I think, figured that he overstepped there a bit. And even not in the head, maybe in the balls. Both simultaneously. All right, so you think that placement of those nuclear complexes, Iskander-M, will not happen in Belarus? You mean with nuclear? Yeah, no, non-nuclear there. Nuclear, first of all, we'll see if they come. Both us and our NATO partners. And I can't even imagine what will happen with Alexander Lukashenko after that. And with Russia as well. Because this is no joke. This is definitely crossing a lot of boundaries. All right, we've been live for 25 minutes. Tell me about the seventh set of sanctions that has been announced for 2 days already. And it's not just individual sanctions. So, Euro Commission confirmed that set of sanctions, but they're not releasing details about the personnel and individual different measures in there. So I don't have a subject to comment upon. I think they'll be targeting gold, bank system. They'll probably let a little looser conditions for agricultural stuff. And I think, yeah, Russian side partook in promoting that because basically they were saying that since you're letting Ukrainian companies to bake bread and export that, let our companies do the same. Plus, there is another option to supply spare parts for the aviation industry so that Russia could do international flights and could fulfill certain safety standards on them. So they're basically being showed that if they're somewhat logical in their decisions, they can still manage to keep themselves partly in those European systems of exchange, into the systems of legal, safety, labor division, trying to convince Russia to participate in somewhat trade deals in the future. I don't know if they will go, but since they seem to be going that way, it means that they still have some rudimentary logic in their decisions. But I do want to say that all that grain issue that Kremlin is pumping is basically maintaining a communication window with the West. And it is not so much, well, actually, this is too, that they're trying to sell their own agriculture products overseas, but they're really interested in the communication window and maybe trade some of the sanctions lifting for some goods. In general, this is good because any communication allows to change situation without using force. And in the future, it probably allows to create affords for the world where nuclear war doesn't happen. And Americans are probably agreeing because why not, right? There likely will be stages and a lot of control from United Nations, from us, from America. Americans were just skeptical and said that we do not believe that Russians will not break that treaty, and we also do not believe that because it is hard to believe a country that started a war against you 8 years ago and half a year started a huge scale war against you. So it's difficult to trust them, but we'll see. All right, 28 minutes we're live, almost 400,000 watching us. Let's go to our favorite subject, to weapons. What can you say about weapons today? Brits announced that they're sending us 20 self-propelled howitzers, M109, a bunch of field artillery for brigade level, and also hundreds of kamikaze drones. That's where I was very glad to see this piece of news. Tell us more about these drones. What can they do? Well, I don't see which ones they'll be supplying, the class of those, but in general, this is. So usually the drone goes up and targets, or helps targeting the artillery, so they hit the right location. This drone not just does that, it also can approach enemy position and go down and attack and explode in a certain target. So there are different drones and different pieces of equipment. So smaller ones, they allow to observe and to destroy maybe 4, 5, 6 fighters in immediate vicinity to the place where it explodes. But there are ones that also can destroy a big armored tank. But hundreds of that equipment are definitely a serious argument. If you imagine throwing them at the key positions with forward operating base and a lot of vehicles, Also, in that statement, 40 anti-aircraft devices. So I don't know the details of it, but our side already showed that we already either have that system or it will be here very soon. So what are these means of anti-air defense? They're very different, Mark. And the main thing that of interest to me is mostly things like Jeopard or anti-air systems like Stormer. So this is a battle vehicle that can follow the troops during their attack and create a shield for anything coming from above. There was a version when we could be getting about 1,500 of these machines. So there is in any case, a situation going in the direction that I will really appreciate when it happens. It reminds of the song by Vysotsky. There is a word in that song that we've got in order to attack and to take back our every bit of our land. So we're somewhere there. And Yermak recently was on the media stating that very soon we'll be seeing a bunch of different commands and orders. So it is hard to tell exactly what, but if we could see that the phrase also entices us finishing the war before winter, that would tell me a lot more. So, besides these statements, though, we see that nomenclature of our weaponry is starting to expand dramatically. Remember how it all started? We couldn't even get mortars. Yeah, I remember that. That was horrible, and we discussed it a lot. And people were screaming at us, saying that we are tiring them out with our discussions about weapons. And now the head of American Air Force is stating that Ukraine most likely will obtain planes, and they will not be Soviet planes. Basically, he's saying that Ukraine will get airplanes for sure. They will not be Soviet models. I just cannot disclose which ones. So let's remember first Rammstein decision that Ukraine forces need to be switched to NATO forces, and that nomenclature is expanding dramatically. It's like a funnel. It's very impressive. It's in even the ones in the open sources. A military professional can see where it goes. The advancement forces are being built. And also it goes towards a prolonged, expanded refitting of Ukrainian forces, probably for a year or two. And it has to lead to what's the problem with Putin is that he started this campaign under the slogan of demilitarization, but as a result, Ukrainian forces will become several times stronger than they were before Putin's demilitarization. That's the irony of the destiny. If also to remember the NATO in Sweden and Finland, the results of this war are laughable. And now look at the Russian side. He killed 100,000 of your kids, dear Russians, to achieve everything that he said is going to be a threat. So how does such leader look for you? And how does he resonate in your parents' hearts? All right, let's ask a few questions at the end from our chat so they don't say that we ignore everybody and we practice the whole day to create an appearance of a live show. People keep asking about sailors and other categories who maybe can leave the borders of Ukraine if allowed. Dear friends, my status is advisor. I do not make these decisions, but I am rooting by all means to support that. I agree that we should have open borders for military professionals who need to go and get training or perform certain work, they need to be able to go. And the other people who don't want to fight, but who can bring good value to the country by serving in very specific job functions, such as sailors, they should have a green light to go and work and continue contributing to the wealth of our country. So I can only say that there are no evil people looking at that, thinking, how do we stop everybody from leaving? There is just some calculation. There are some of them done by military, and they may be wrong, but in some aspects. But the question is, do we trust them? Do we trust our military in these questions of mobilization? Personally, I do trust them, even in their mistakes, if they're sincere. But I do have my opinion, and I'm not hiding it. I'm posting it publicly, and I'm voicing it in the building I'm working in. The other question that we have is that knife we have put to our necks by people, and they're asking us to send a picture of that cat from Snake Island. So this is the picture we could find online. No, I don't have a cat, unfortunately, and I'm suffering from that, but my wife has allergy for cats. So, yeah. This is the cat. It's probably a side picture. His head is somewhat down. Yeah, I think he's sad. It's a sad cat. He's probably asking a sad question, where have you been so long? So let me, do you think anybody can find us better pictures of this fella? Yeah, let's find better pictures. I'll ask my friends, see if I can get better pictures of this traveler. So, fulfilling your questions in the chat. So, we had 3 promises to say who got under sanctions, to get the cat, and sailors. Well, yeah, we'll address the sailors. It'll be a long question, and we'll probably bring it up with a certain frequency. Now, tomorrow, are we doing the cast? Yes, there is another one tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. Again, our merchandise. You know, people are writing to us saying that there is more advanced version of our merch in Europe with stitching on it, so that exists in the European store. You need to dig through it and find it somewhere. I just heard that it's available somewhere in the list. Those who never bought anything, here's the t-shirt saying "Fear Nothing." Why don't we have cups, Mark? We do have it there, it's just deeper. I think we have everything. By the way, aprons are out on the Ukrainian side. They'll be restocked. If we're real postmodern, we need to show that stuff on ourselves. So during the show, we need to raise these glasses or mugs or whatever that is. So we need to buy them and get them delivered. So let's do that. You get a mug with my mug, and I'll get a mug with your mug. And we'll do some cheering and drinking here. All right, we have not still gotten the funds from that shop, so the moment they transfer and release it, I think it's once a month for now, we'll support next group of people whom we wanted to. It's a little more difficult with Europe, but we'll figure it out there too. Please partake in that charity program, Feygin Arestovych. We've been live for almost 40 minutes, over 400,000 people watching us. Subscribe to both of our channels, and you can subscribe on either here or there, and to the privateer station as well. Thank you, everybody, and see you tomorrow. Cats Living on the Web, another song. See you tomorrow.